taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for leaks, news, and insights about games in the gaming industry, episode 222 on the 22nd of April, 2020. There's a lot of twos in that. 222 episodes. Kind of hard to believe. I don't know. That one hit me more than 200 did for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, that number alliteration. Anyway, I'm here, as always, with Obsidian. What's alliterations when you have a series of words that all start with the same letter? What if you have a series of numbers that all start with the same digit? Is there a word for that? Or am I just way too wired for a Wednesday? That's probably that.
It's chaotic math. It's totally...
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hello to everybody in the live chat who are confused by the messages I'm posting there. Too many, too silly, too awesome. Yes, indeed. Everybody is... everyone's beeping in the chat today. Nice CD Projekt references there. We are going to be talking about CD Projekt today and how they're not bankrupt. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. But there's a little bit of a confusion because there's another company who's connected to CDPR who has very similar initials to CDPR who did go bankrupt. So we'll dive into that. We're also going to talk about a few viewer-requested topics, including the Doom Eternal official soundtrack, which was very poorly mixed. But apparently Mick Gordon, the composer of the music, had nothing to do with that. And also the changing landscape of the video games industry. You know, with the current world situation, with Plague Inc. LARPing happening, E3 being canceled, a lot of stuff moving online. And, game developers, their staff is being spread out and working remotely, working from home, all that kind of thing. Things are changing in the games industry, so we're going to talk about a few of those things. Not going to get too deep and too heavy into it, but
for the better, some things for the better. Really, we're starting to see this. So yeah, I'm going to go into that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we might see. I mean, in general, but also specifically in the games industry, we might see some things come out of this whole quarantine situation that carry on into the future because they just really work. So we'll get into all of that. But anyway, if you're listening live today, please do say hello in the live chat. Of course, you're already doing that because you know the drill. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. And if you haven't already, please do slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. And if you listen...
I was gonna say it's been a little rough recently, but it's been rough for everybody. So, but yeah, for some odd reason, the advertising is just down. Even though watch time is really up.
Yeah,
so
watch time's up, views are up, and but revenue's down, and not just for us, but for a lot of people. So. We really appreciate anything you can do, sharing the content, liking the content.
That's the best thing that you can do.
Just
although we also appreciate when you do the join thing, and because that's really where YouTube really they've been trying to push that for ages, and it's that tool that a lot of us are surviving off of these days because they are wanting to push this professionalized content. So we've been brainstorming recently, trying to see how we can up the quality and tweak things a little bit to make it more cool. So yeah, let us know if you have any ideas, if you want to help out at all, let us know. And
if there's any,
because it's been weird.
If there's any incentives that we could offer to get you guys to join, become a channel member or join Patreon, let us know.
I'm not against doing, a special, ASMR series, for subscribers. I've been thinking about that. Is this something we could do?
10 hours of Obsidian's squeaky gears. Who wouldn't love that? Excuse me.
Humming of the coolant fans.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's talk about what's going on with CD Projekt. So, we're trying to get ahead of this. There hasn't been a ton of coverage yet, but Last Known Meal posted some stuff about this. Shout out to him in our sort of community Discord. Last Known Meal, of course, another great YouTuber who we work with on the Cyberpunk 2077 community podcast. So, there's a Polish company called CDP, which is not CDPR, but it is connected to CDPR. It is, at least in its history. So, and I'm trying to. There's a lot of information in front of me here, and so I'm going to try to clarify this as much as possible. So, CD Projekt Red and CD Projekt Group, which owns CD Projekt Red and GOG and all of that, they are doing very well. As a matter of fact, it was just reported earlier this month that they are the most valuable company on Warsaw's stock exchange. They dethroned a bank as the top company in terms of market value.
I'm sure that is absolutely hilarious for everybody involved. Think about it. I wanted to be in that boardroom when the bank went from number 1 to number 2. It's like, sorry guys, we failed from being number 1 to number 2. Well, who is it? Is it JC? Is it Central Banking? Is it I'm just making up some banking names like Royale Plus. But no, it's a video game company. A video game company. What? A video game company? That's man. It would just be too funny. Too funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, games are serious business, and especially now, and we're going to talk about that a little more later. I mean, video game sales are up. I mean, with everybody being forced to stay at home so much, it's video games are a pastime that a lot of people are turning to. But anyway, this company called CDP, which was connected to Cyberpunk 2077 in the sense that it was supposed to be a distributor of the game in Poland. Until apparently the delay of Cyberpunk 2077 to September negatively affected this distributor, and they have filed for bankruptcy. So the reason that this is confusing is because CDP, in this case, the other company, the not game developer CDP, this Polish distributor, their initials do stand for CD Projekt. But it's not the same, and it is not the same as CD Projekt Red or the CD Projekt Group. And I'm reading from TechRaptor here. They got a quote from GOG, which says, CDP Distribution Company was not associated in any way with GOG, CDPR, nor CD Projekt Group. It was part of the group back in a day. I think this is kind of I think this was translated. So it was part of the group back in the day, but it has been sold out to private investors and since then departed as a separate company with its own structure and people. While it is sad to hear about their bankruptcy, it does not affect GOG, CDPR, or CD Projekt Group in any way. Good article on TechRaptor about this. They've done a pretty good job of distilling this because a lot of the info is in Polish. And when you read it in Google Translate, it's not always immediately clear what's being talked about. But anyway, if you see rumors, and there was a Reset Era thread where a lot of people were very confused about this, but if you see any rumors online about CDPR going bankrupt or having financial troubles right now, you can help clear it up by just pointing out, no, it's a completely separate company that was connected, but it's not the same company. Okay, anything more you wanted to say about that? I mean, CD Projekt is they're doing gangbusters. They're doing very well.
They're doing so well. It's like, oh man, investing in them heavily would have been a good idea. But again, I always say, unless that's 20% of your budget, you want to spread out 80% of your budget to very broad-based mutual funds or like big wide stocks, because you know that term, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah, that's a really important thing to remember. I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and they were really upset because they lost a lot of money. And I was like, "Well, what mutual fund did you have it in?" And he said, because I was shocked, and he goes, "Oh, no, it was all in one stock." It's like, what? Yeah, and the company went bankrupt. Like, what? And I'm like, well, that was like, only part of your say. No, that was all of it. And I'm like, what? What? Oh, that's so not good. That's so not good.
Not a good idea.
Don't
but
put all your eggs in one basket. It's just a terrible idea. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Please.
Well, and it's good for companies as well to diversify. Probably why CD Projekt is doing so well. But we were talking about this earlier, how they've got they're sitting on a lot of capital, but they're also sitting on a lot of cash, and they're weathering the storm really well. You were telling me earlier, Cyb, that like even if Cyberpunk was a massive flop, they would do okay.
Yeah, they have enough money to basically weather an entire turnaround in their company. And for the life of me, I don't understand why every multi-million-dollar company doesn't do this. I think I said this last week. For the love of all that you hold precious, if you are running a massive company, for the love of God, please do not throw your entire budget into a living paycheck to paycheck. Please do not do that. You have to remember that at any time your income can stop. Now, this is hard for families, and this is like for a lot of money managers, like getting you out of hot water, like helping you to turn your banking around. One of the biggest things that they tell you right away is like, save up $1,000 or $2,000 worth of emergency expenses, and and then you should ultimately aim yourself to set aside 6 months of living expenses. That's an aim that you should do, but you should, like, if you have debt, you should be getting rid of that debt, faster, because again, like we see with all this stuff going on, it's like, it could have saved some pain, but
yeah, indeed. All right, so that's most of the Cyberpunk news, and again, as someone pointed out in the chat there, it seems like it's only really news because it's got clickbait potential, but there is that confusion with this company that is. It is technically called, or used to be associated with CD Projekt, and that's where the CDP label comes from, but it's its own company now, and it was also going to be distributing Cyberpunk 2077 in some way. So, I can see where the confusion is there, so we wanted to try and get ahead of that and clear it up. And for example, this Tech Raptor article says right at the beginning, no, not GOG or Witcher developer CDPR, so that's good.
So Polly's 911, thank you for the super chat. Oh, very, very, very appreciated as always. And he's got this like average clickbait YouTuber's got to have a title that says CDPR broke, Cyberpunk never coming out, confirmed.
There's probably going to be some of that, yeah.
Yeah.
They'll get. Like, I haven't seen it yet, though.
No, we haven't seen it yet. It's one of those things that I think it's flying under the radar just because it's like different style news type thing. It's like, again, it's like I'm shocked that people aren't running with it, but then again, I'm also like, oh, well, technically that's a good thing, right? So,
well, maybe enough people are getting ahead of it, or maybe they, maybe the clickbaiters are just not on the ball this time. I mean, it is. We only know about this because Last Known linked it to us, so It's a lot of the news is still in Polish. Still, it takes a little while to trickle over to the English-speaking side of the world. Okay. Other than that, not much on the Cyberpunk front right now.
There was a little image that was kind of teased out with the Xbox thing. There wasn't much. It's just kind of a generic background type thing.
Well, yeah. So there was the Xbox, the Cyberpunk 2077 themed Xbox. There was a picture of it released on a background that looks like a screenshot from the game. Mad Queen was talking about this, and I asked her today what she thought about it. She said she thinks it's Pacifica, but that there's really not much there except for some random tiny lore thing that she's pretty sure only she cares about. That was her exact words. And yet she did a 3-hour live stream about it yesterday. So I don't know. Take that as you will. But yeah, not too much going on. I mean, as far as we know, the game is on track. It's going to be releasing in September. CD Projekt and CD Projekt Red have been having their employees work from home. They're doing fixes and bug squashing and polish and getting the game ready for us, so that there's no hint that this game is going to be delayed any more than it currently has been to September, even with the Plague Inc. LARP situation. Mm-hmm. You all know what we're talking about.
We can't call it that anymore, by the way.
We can't call it that now.
No.
Good grief.
Can't say the P word anymore. So so we're gonna have to switch that up again.
It's ridiculous. I mean, come on, YouTube, just let us talk about stuff that's going on. Like, people are smart enough to seek out the right information from good sources.
Like, yeah,
you don't have to control the spigot. It's just so annoying.
There are some things going around. So there was this thing that somebody asked me about just a little bit ago, whether or not this concept of like, oh, if you swallow it and drink lots of water, you're okay. No, that is an old wives' tale. It's been around for a very long time. It's never wrong to drink more water, but in the way that they're saying, oh no, if you drink lots of water, if you drink a cup of water every like 2 hours, you'll be fine. You won't get sick. That's complete horse. Now, you should be drinking at least 8 cups of water a day. You can drink as many as 32 cups of water a day, and actually that's not too bad for you. And in fact, if you can drink around 32, then you end up losing a little bit more weight. So that's actually really good. I try to drink like, I don't know, like a couple liters a day, but I can, like, you should drink to the point where you're clear streamed. That's when you know you're doing good. Now, anything excess, you could take that too far, of course, but no, it's one of those things where that's bad info, because the way that it was approached, the way that rumor got started is actually very damaging. So I can kind of understand some of that, but it's like they could be focusing on like just that instead of like just hurting everybody who even mentions the thing that's impacting everybody's life all at the same time everywhere. It's like, ugh. It's so frustrating.
I don't know where I come down on the, like, as far as YouTube as a platform trying to control information at all.
They're a publisher now.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you want to be, I don't know, because I mean, I do get that. Okay, you spread a false rumor out there that might harm some people, but I mean, is it practical, smart, ethically okay to try and control that? Like, to really try and determine which content published to your platform is authoritative and which is not. And we're not even talking about the issue. It's just mentioning it gets eyes on you, gets your content suppressed. It's ridiculous. We're doing our gaming podcast over here, but there's an active thing happening in the world, and we can't even mention it because they're so paranoid about somebody getting the wrong idea about something. Anyway, it's frustrating, but not going to rant about that anymore because we have other stuff to talk about. So, an interesting situation with the Doom Eternal official soundtrack. People were noticing that the OST for Doom Eternal, which has banger music, by the way, like super great music, composed by Mick Gordon, who he did the music for Doom 2016. Also some of the Wolfenstein games, and also, some other games. But he's well known for his Doom music because it's just awesome stuff, awesome heavy metal stuff that just fits the game's theme perfectly. But people were looking at the soundtrack that got released and were like, this is crap. Like, it was not the music itself, but the way it was mixed and processed was just bad. It was flat. It was hollow, and there's even screenshots going around showing waveform comparisons between the soundtrack from the 2016 Doom and the soundtrack from Doom Eternal, and they put the same song side by side, and one is well mixed and dynamic, and the other one is just really flat looking. Turns out Mick Gordon, I keep almost saying Mick Jagger, and that would be, I'd be...
Well, because he is Mick Jagger to some of us.
Mick Gordon had nothing to do with the mixing of the tracks on the Doom Eternal soundtrack, on the OST. Now, I don't know if that has to do... I don't know if that applies to the in-game music as well, or if they use different mixes for the two. I would imagine they do. I would imagine they mix it a little differently in the game than they do when they release the soundtrack for commercial release. I don't know that for sure, but anyway, apparently he did not mix the music. Like, he wrote it and recorded it, he composed it, but he was not in charge of the mixing. Now, I'm not entirely clear who did the mixing. There's rumors going around that it was just some random executive, or even some guy who had it out for Mick Gordon, and they don't know who did it. We don't know who did it at this point. If anyone has any authoritative information on who actually made the mix, I'd be curious to know that. But he's gone on the record saying, yeah, I know I didn't mix these, because there's a Twitter user, that ACDC guy, who was posting stuff about this on Twitter. He's the one who posted these screenshots, and he said, this is frustrating because I expect better from Mick Gordon. And then Mick said, I didn't mix those tracks, and I wouldn't have done it that way. You'll be able to spot the small handful of tracks that I mixed. Meat hook, command and control, etc. So I guess there's a couple of tracks on the soundtrack that he mixed himself, and he says they'll be noticeable to you if you look at them. If you look at the waveforms for them versus the rest of the tracks, you'll notice a big difference. So that's it's interesting, and that's frustrating.
Weird.
Now, we don't know why. Again, don't know who did it or why. But whatever's going on there, it seems like it's caused a rift between Mick Gordon and Bethesda, because somebody DM'd Mick Gordon asking if there is a chance that he's going to be working on it if id Software, not I always say ID Software, I don't know why. If id Software decides to work on another Doom game, are you going to be part of it? And Mick's response was, I doubt we'll work together again. So there's a rift.
So it sounds like there was some creative conflict going on there, which sucks, and that always sucks when that when people's EPs get in the way of actually doing good stuff. Now, one might argue, well, it's because they're wanting or trying to do good stuff that that happens. And I'd say sure. But yeah, that's
yeah.
That's frustrating for sure.
Now, as Funky Moin points out, we don't know the business side of the music thing. Did he ask for too much money to do the soundtrack? I mean,
and that is something
possible
that happens from time to time.
Yeah, that is possible. But then you'd think if he was asking too much to mix the soundtrack, you'd think they'd have turned around and hired somebody else who knows what they're doing, right? Mm-hmm. Rather than someone who's going to make this really quick, poor mix. But anyway, yeah, if anyone comments on the Doom OST, you can point out that, well, it wasn't mixed by Mick Gordon. But yeah, I'm really curious what's actually going on there. Because if he's at the point of stepping away, and he's done several games with id and Bethesda now, if he's stepping away from them, saying it's unlikely we'll work together again, then clearly something bad went down. Mm-hmm. It's too bad. He does really awesome. He did really awesome Doom music. So.
Yeah, well, let's hope that somebody figures that out and learns to. Yeah, it's one again. Creative people sometimes do that. Famously, we had a thing with Obsidian. Obsidian tried to do an industry standard thing, where it's like you have a non-compete clause, and that's pretty standard, especially in entertainment. There's non-compete clauses all the time, and you can get around them by your new company saying, who's hiring you, going, "Oh, you're under a non-compete clause? Hang on, we'll get on the phone with this other company. Hey, how much to buy out his non-compete clause?" And they go, X amount of money. And they go, "That's ridiculous. We'll give you half." And then they're like, "Give us 70%. No, 60%. 65? All right, 65, and you owe me a golf course game on the weekend." Yeah, because all these people hang around in the same golf clubs. However, that didn't go over well with the person who had the non-compete clause on them. And they kind of went a little ballistic because from their perspective, they were stifling their creativity and preventing them from working, which again, totally get, right? And maybe it wasn't communicated well. It certainly wasn't. I mean, it certainly wasn't communicated well. And there was some definitely major problems with that, and unfortunately, that caused a huge rift. And that's too bad because it could have been handled. It could have and should have been handled a lot better. But for whatever reason, things just didn't work out that way. And again, really too bad. I hate it. I hate seeing that kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, PC Gamer. Sorry?
Mm-hmm.
PC Gamer reached out to Gordon for a statement, and all that Gordon said was, "I take a lot of pride in my work. It's all I do, it's all I have, and I pour my heart and soul into it." He added that he's still trying to understand the situation himself and has no further comments at this time. So it might be some time before we get to the truth on what happened in this situation. I've seen some people saying, "Oh, this is, Bethesda seriously dropped the ball here again." That could be, but we don't know the details at this point. So it's a little early to jump to conclusions.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it boils down to the fact that we don't know 100% what's going on here. We have, we can kind of assume, we can make some assumptions, but most assumptions are going to be bad assumptions, right? And so, yeah, we need to hopefully need to have some more clearer communication on this.
All right.
But we don't know.
So, you're listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast. We love seeing everybody so active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S fans about all the things we love to talk about, and stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. I saw some folks hanging out in one of the voice rooms this morning. Somebody was streaming some Witcher 3 gameplay. I didn't know that you guys had the permissions to do that, but that's really cool. And
Yeah, no, Discord lets you know whenever somebody's in a chat room and they're
Yeah.
streaming, it puts that little tag on it. And it's there so that hopefully people don't barge in and be like, smacking on some food, going, "Hey guys, what's up?" Um,
Well,
did you catch that game yesterday? It was really amazing. 12-0. Whoa! And it's like,
but yeah,
you
you can do
spoiled something. Yeah.
you can do. I mean, it's only open to members of the Discord server. Of course, we do have an open server for anyone who has the invite to it. But we've got a really good community, and it was good to see some of you guys hanging out and talking about, chatting with each other while someone's playing The Witcher. But yeah, you can do little local streams within within the Discord server, and that is something I've considered doing on occasion, but just haven't made the opportunity to. But yeah, that's something you guys can do. So that's really awesome. But yeah, lots of great stuff happening there, and so encourage you to click the link below to join. Be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel, and meet some new friends. There's great people there. So we're going to get on to talking more about the world situation. I think that's just what I'll call it, because there's just no... even our slang sort of terms for it are now...
The world, doll.
Yeah, the world situation.
Oh no, I didn't say that right. It's Zavaldo. That's how they say it. If anybody knows where that's from, let me know, because no, Zavaldo.
Okay.
It's so there's a super popular anime out right now, and that's how they say the world.
I thought it was like Dawarudo or something. Anyway.
No, but if you say it like that, then it comes out as this more thingy. There's also a YouTuber who's been kind of like making that super popular that way too, which is super funny in my opinion. I like it. It's good stuff.
I honestly have no idea what we're talking about, but the world situation is it's changing the landscape of society. Really, it's changing the landscape of the gaming industry. So we're going to talk about a couple of things with that. We have talked before on the podcast about E3, how E3, I mean, it's canceled, basically. And then IGN has stepped in with their gaming show sort of during that same time window. They're going to try to do kind of an online E3-like thing. But what we're finding now is that a lot of companies are deciding to kind of break out of that box as far as that time frame. And we're going to be getting some announcements earlier than the E3 window and some announcements later, but companies are less tied now to that sort of big time when things get announced and when their big announcements and reveals happen. So I was thinking about this today and thinking, next year when hopefully, life is more back to normal, is that just going to continue? Is this just going to continue contributing to the irrelevancy of E3? And are more companies just going to start doing their own online things at a time when they think is the best for them and the people that would tune in, that kind of a thing? Maybe spread it out more over the year so they're not competing with each other all the time, competing with each other for attention. Because, if you're watching E3, there's 3,000, there's hundreds of games and companies competing for your attention. But if they spread it out throughout the year, do kind of like a Nintendo Direct thing, like Nintendo's been doing for a long time, that might just work better. That might be, so you might have EA doing their thing just on their own at a specific time, streaming it live online. And then
we can only hope. We can only hope.
Yeah, and I mean,
this is a little bit on. It's really been a little bit ridiculous for a long time now, and it's not something that like we've had issues with E3, and E3 just in general is a terrible system for streamers, for the people going there, for the crews from the gaming companies that are headed out there, it's been increasingly more and more like cliquish and like, you know, very like corrupt in a lot of ways, and it's been bad for business. And now it's finally like, no, we're done with this, guys. We're not sitting through this anymore. This is absolutely ridiculous. And so finally it's appearing as if E3 is going to be done with, which again, you know, for most gamers' perspective, that's going to be a sad thing. From a lot of developers' perspective, they are literally, you know, giggling for joy, because it's just been so ridiculous for so long. But now it's like, okay, now this is finally like, you know, this is finally turning around for them, which is a good thing, because this has been a long time coming, and it couldn't happen to a bunch of nicer people, because it's been such a problem. And now we're finally like, there's finally some level of comeuppance coming out, and it's like, yay, about time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I look at it. These companies don't need E3. It's nice to do events and stuff like that, but they can start to do events locally. You know, they can hire people locally to help them host a big event and then stream it out for everybody to see. And hiring like a handful of professionals to come in from out of town to like handle like, you know, more of the technical side of things. And that creates like more like jobs locally. Why everybody's been going to California for years now, it's been silly. It's been really silly. So yeah. No, I think ultimately this is a bit of a better choice. This is a bit of a better direction, and hopefully, because that's the other thing that it really helps to do, is it helps the creators of the games to really get in touch with their own community members. Instead of having a YouTuber come out to E3 for 3 days and trying to squeeze 15 to 30 minutes in with as many different people as they can, waiting for an hour or two behind lines. Now if that person has the community, then they can directly, set up a meeting, fly them out, and that's going to be cheaper than flying out dozens and dozens. Like, think about it. You fly out 20 or 30 staff members, sometimes from sometimes from the other side of the world, to go to these conventions, all of the hotel rooms for all of those people, all of the shipping, oh, good Lord, the shipping alone for some of these things, they have to fly out a cargo container. And then they have to set up that cargo container, essentially, of all that stuff. That's in some cases, I remember it was like $20,000-$30,000 to get all of their physical equipment out to E3 and set up. What? Wow. Instead, you can set up a thing locally for half that price, and then for half the price of all the flights that you've done, you could bring in a small number of people and actually have a solid day of like QA, one-on-one stuff, talking to people who then can talk directly to the community. It seems like I can't see a downside to this. I really can't. So, yay, because this has been what's needed for a while. And yeah, and I'm just more for like people keeping things in-house as much as possible these days too. So good to see.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I guess the downside is for people who want that condensed delivery of stuff all at one time. But
there will always be that for the fans and for the people watching. But just on the sideline, this is going to make a lot of people's lives a lot easier.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean,
spread out more often,
including us as content creators. Yeah. It's much easier to cover these events one at a time than to try and we have those few days of E3 where we're trying to keep track of what everybody's doing, and there's only a few videos that we can possibly put out during those periods of time. Only a few videos and a few live streams.
Now, I suspect strongly that there will always be a strong group of people that are, or a strong, sorry, a big event where a number of developers all get together, and there's a strong like community building thing there with a bunch of new games and the big gaming highlights. There's always going to be something like that, and we're going to see that. We're going to see a couple of different companies come up with unique solutions for it. One of the things that I think VR is going to do is, I think eventually there's going to be this concept where you're going to have, CDPR in Poland. They've set up a room, a massive room. Maybe they've rented out a small conference center just down the road, and they've got 4 main rooms. 2 of them are going to have talks and all this other stuff. And this is all going to be digital. This is all going to be VR. And then Bethesda, they're going to have their setup, and Activision and EA and BioWare, all these companies, right? Oblivion, and then all these like smaller independent companies, and they're all going to have these rooms set up in either their own studios or a local like thing near them, and they're going to be streaming that room to the world. Now, the host of the show is the curator of this event is going to have this massive like virtual reality conference in which people can go there on separated sharded servers, so that you're never seeing more than a couple hundred people at a time, and you're able to walk in, sit down, and watch things happen with other people. And if you're in a group or a small community, you can do this together so that you hear what they're saying and you hear how people are reacting. So, you have our Discord group, there's a server where everybody's interconnected to each other, and we can all go in and listen. And if somebody's being too loud, then one of the admins can, silence the person or mute them for a moment. But you can all sit there and watch this stuff live, along with literally thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of other people that are virtually in the same room at the same time. That's where I'm seeing that this is going to go in the future. So instead of having a single, E3 type of event, physical event, you've got you have this enormous world where literally hundreds and thousands of people are able to like stream in, watch the same small room, and the people giving the address can see, this is going to be where it's a little tricky, is how the speakers see the room. That's the only thing that I don't know how they're going to quantify that down, whether or not they're going to make it so that they only see like certain people or particular people, or whether it's going to be like a selection of people. But that having that feedback from a live audience is really, really important when you're doing public speaking, and how that will function in this scenario, I don't know, but I'm sure somebody will come up with an interesting solution for it. But yeah, that's where I'm seeing this go, and I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. Funky Moin says, imagine the cons of this, though. Imagine if Blizzard could have hushed the crowd at the Diablo Eternal reveal.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think that will be a thing, because I think the Twitch comments are always there, right?
Yeah.
And I think the general reaction from people will always be the same. Now, of course, you won't have the whole people putting a foot in their actual mouth. You may get less of that because they may be able to like recover from that quicker. But I mean, that's always going to be there on some level. Yeah, I sat down and watched the show, and I got told to, basically sit down and shut up, because they don't care that I liked the game how it was in its previous iterations. This is how the game will be, and I've got to accept it. Like, that's the new Blizzard, 2.0. Like, don't you have phones? And that, I mean, they're gonna get crucified, online if they choose to do that. It's just not a good thing for them to do, and it would end up like throwing them all into chaos, and justifiably so. So no, I think really when it comes down to it, there is most definitely there really for sure is some things, in the works for this kind of stuff, and we'll see where this goes. I'm very excited for like how this can look in the future, because I honestly think that we need to move away from what they have and how they've set this up, because it's just not healthy. It's just not healthy to the ecosystem. It's not healthy to the community. We need better, things. We need better experiences. We need better, like, everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I think, where we need to go as a whole, and we are going to get there with this new direction at some point. I honestly believe that, but how it'll turn out. But yeah, we're definitely seeing how this whole thing has been firing back on the E3 company, because for the longest time they really spat in the faces of a lot of people a few years ago, and then they realized that, oh no, they needed they needed these big audiences from these communities, and that what they had been doing was wrong and had caused a lot of problems amongst fans and fandoms and stuff like this. And they just suddenly realized that what they had done and how they had gone about it was all wrong. But by then it was too late, because when they said, oh, we're going to make it focused on more of the streaming community, then all of the traditional news journalist people suddenly like threw their hands up and made a fit. So instead of starting to alleviate these problems to begin with by saying, look guys, we need to embrace the new future, instead of that, you had them catering to one group and then catering to another group, and then trying, and it was just like, it's like suddenly discovering that everybody's, it's like Angela in The Office, right? The Office is super popular again for some reason. It's like Angela in The Office. Suddenly, everybody realizes that, she's been two-timing, Dwight and Andrew at the same time, and suddenly they both left her, and so that's kind of how, I don't know if that's a great example, but yeah, that's how I see this, is like they've been trying to get the best of both worlds, and they ended up screwing themselves over because they were more interested in profits than actually building a community. And that's where they failed. That's their greatest failure, is the fact that they were too stupid to realize that the community was the most important thing, not the not
yeah
not playing footsies with everybody is whenever it best served them, because then they're just fair weather friends instead of like, hey, look, we're building a community. And yeah, I think that's the best way to probably put it.
All right. But there are more changes in the gaming industry due to what's happening. So what else gave the human malware situation? Are we allowed to say that one still? Are we allowed to say that? Is that safe?
Probably.
Human malware. That is.
So human malware has been going around, and interestingly enough, this has had some bad, but also some interesting effects on the world. And there was an interesting article put out by Jason, since he left Kotaku, and he's now he's now writing for the Wall Street Journal. Apparently, New York Times.
Well, no, he's okay. I can't remember who his new employer is, but he has an article published in the New York Times yesterday. I don't think he's working there full time.
No, I think he's more of an independent now. But yeah, so New York Times article, interesting article. It's kind of, it's pretty generic stuff, but there was some interesting stuff where he talked about how basically they have there's a lot of companies that are having issues, right? And some of them are having more issues than others. For the most part, we can see that the working from home thing started to be a good thing, but now it's increasing stress on certain people, especially team leaders. So this is interesting because the team leaders in most companies, I'm not targeting anybody directly now. I'm speaking in broad general terms. So this does not apply to everybody, but generally speaking, the biggest problem that most AAA studios have is team leadership, and the team leads not having issues with communication. That is not exclusive to the gaming industry. That is across the board. When you have bad team leaders in any company, you're going to have a difficult time, and that is a very difficult job. This is not just like, what the hoyo, you guys should be better at this. It's not that. This is a very difficult thing for people to do. Frankly put, being a team leader is stressful. You're juggling, 5 different people. You're juggling a Karen, a Steve, a Chad, all at the same time. And y'all know like the personality types that I'm referring to. And it's like learning how to like juggle those people all at the same time without causing some like major problem or major catastrophe or people panicking or losing their mind or all that kind of stuff. That is a difficult thing. It's not an easy thing. But in the gaming industry, it can be especially bad because one bad team leader can really destroy a game. One bad team leader can really like set things off on its side. So what this is doing for a lot of team leaders is this is giving them an opportunity to really push themselves to come up with new solutions, to learn how to like communicate and deal with their staff better. It's opening the opportunity for them to be put under stress that teaches them how to grow and how to become better at their job, because now their job is less about like walking around the office and like dictating things. Now it's more about communication than it ever has been before, because they have to communicate directly with their teams. They have to find ways to be clear, concise, and how to feed back on that. So this is I think this is potentially a very good thing, because it's teaching all of these team leaders and all these companies across the entire industry how to be a better team leader in these difficult times. And if they can weather the storm, if they can learn, if they can increase their experience based off of these examples, then they're going to be able to turn this around and make this whole thing better and make their whole teams and groups within these big companies function even better when they get back to normal, or even if this is a longer term thing. It's like I think this has been a good thing because it's a learning opportunity and it's teaching them their greatest weakness. I'm going to quote the world leader now, one of the greatest people that has ever lived in the history of mankind. Carmen Sandiego, greatest thief in the world, once said that my enemy's strengths point out the weaknesses that I need to overcome. So this is what's happening in this scenario. They have issues and weaknesses, and they're overcoming those weaknesses. If they can stay ahead of this, they're going to overcome those weaknesses, and then they're going to be better for it. And again, it's not all the small technical things that are causing most of the problems. It's there's somebody chainsawing a tree. Why now? But yes,
I don't hear it. Maybe it's Carmen Sandiego.
But
tries to steal all the trees in your area.
Yeah. But this is something that like I said, it's the greatest weakness of gaming companies is the team leaders not keeping their teams on target and being able to communicate with them with all of the problems and all of the things that they have to do. Now this is something that they're being directly challenged with and being forced to improve. And I think that's a good thing, because what we're going to see, I think, from this is we're going to see a lot of veterans come out of this with experience on being able to communicate and learn how to communicate more. And if you're in that situation and you're having a hard time, pick up some lessons. One of the greatest lessons from communication that I ever saw was a dude who ran a fast food window, and he was like he talked to hundreds upon hundreds of people a day, and he never lost his cool. And this was like, I learned so much from him with just spending like, it was on some TV show where they interviewed the guy, and it was like that, and really the entire episode turned into this one dude, because everybody was floored on how he was able to communicate with people so well. And it's really like one of those things where it's like, that's who you need running your like communications department. And I think he ended up getting like a huge job increase there because of that. And he became like one of these like massive trainers that flew around, and it was really good because his life was pretty crap before that. But he had this great skill, and the boss finally saw his great skill. So that's where we need to like, that's where these people need to focus on, and that will improve the industry overall. So yeah, that really struck me yesterday. Kind of like it was a bunch of other things. The article was kind of a little like tied into it a little bit, because yeah, there are companies that are starting to have problems. They're starting to have stress because the communication's been the issue. But good people, smart people will look at this and say, all right, this is my biggest problem. This is what I've got to overcome right now. Like, I know this is difficult. I need to find a way to get this done. So I'm going to set up a Discord server. I'm going to set up a call list. I'm going to set up like, team meetings at this time, and this time. And I'm going to excuse some people from attending them because they don't need to, because they're working on this other thing and they're doing great. And then I need to keep track of this person, because they're not that great at working from home. So yeah, that's kind of my perspective on it. And like I said, everything can be turned into a positive if you use it, to grow. And sure, some things are really painful. I don't know if you know this, but, growing teeth, extremely painful. Toddlers cry a lot, primarily because of that. I don't know if you knew this, but yeah, teething is a terrible time. I mean, ask any parent. How'd the teething time go? Terrible.
You might have to point out what is that? What are you using that as an analogy for?
That pain is something that's not always pleasant, but the ultimate outcome is good.
Okay. You heard it here, folks. Pain is not always pleasant.
Yeah, and that's my whole point. Is like, pain's not always pleasant. It's not a good thing that everybody's going through this right now. I'm just pointing out that if we can learn from this. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that, I'm glad everybody's stuck at home not being able to do anything. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that this is giving some people the opportunity of a lifetime to learn new skills that will make their job and their entire profession and everybody they work with so much better if they can master those skills.
No, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Not that I'm happy with people being in pain. I'm not happy that people are in pain.
I don't think anyone would have interpreted that, but
you never know. Right?
Your choice of words was really funny, though. Pain is not always pleasant. But I mean, it's true. Like, I'm very curious to see what, after this is over in a year or so, or in 10 years, how the world's going to be different, and the changes that we'll be able to trace back to, the great 2020 shut-in. The great 2020, the great forced introversion of 2020, where the introverts flourished and the extroverts went mad. So they'll probably all be in, straitjackets at that time. But anyway, the introverts will conquer the world in the digital age. That's what I'm taking away from this. But yeah, like, we may see more companies just letting their employees work from home, and to a large extent, there's no reason why certain aspects of some jobs can't be done from home. Offer a little more work-life balance. This was my biggest gripe when I worked for I worked for a very large corporation
You worked for don't undersell yourself. You worked for a Fortune 100 company.
Yeah, well, it was one of the biggest companies in North America, doing digital media stuff, and it was
Basically their head digital media
well,
person.
I when I was brought on,
By-
I pioneered it in their
Yeah.
they brought me on to do a thing. They brought me on as an intern, and then kept me on for a while, and kept me on for a long time after that. I eventually, resigned my post to stay home with my kids. But the basically, I was pioneering a lot of stuff for them in terms of digital media. But my biggest gripe was there was a lot there was no flexibility. It was the kind of company. It was run by people who had been in the industry for years and years and decades, and this is the way we do things. And we in the office had to work the same hours as the people out on job sites, and it's like, well, why though? And why do I have to be? I had to be. I had like a 9.5 hour workday with like an hour off for lunch each day that I didn't need. I was like, there's no flexibility here at all. And, a lot of staff were just getting bored and working on their lunch breaks because there was nothing else to do. You'd sit in the break room and chat with people for a while. But, you'd get bored and you'd be like, well, I'll just go work on stuff until the day's over. So yeah, the lack of flexibility, the lack of sort of work-life balance, and I had a fairly long commute as well, and I was like, isn't there any room for flexibility here? Could I work from home 2 days a week? And I pitched this to my boss, and she was like, well, I'd be okay with it, but, I think I could make that work with you, but it's the guys above me you're going to have to convince, and they're not going to go for it. Because they want everybody to be in their little box, and they want everybody to be at their desk.
Yeah.
And there was stuff.
This whole thing has been really showing that this is not needed. Like, this is not something that's
and I was fine with like there was stuff I had to be there for. There were meetings, there were things that I had to be in the office for, and I was fine with that. I was just like, it'd be really nice if I could have a little more flexibility here. But anyway, and that's what, like, the younger generation coming in, that's something I noticed. They valued that more so than sort of the older generation. But yeah, like, so for game companies, that may be something that's more of a possibility. To at least maybe part-time work from home. But you see a lot of companies cropping up that are heavily diversified, spread over. So Riot just purchased a company that is working on a game that it's a Minecraft style game, but it's more of an RPG.
Yeah.
They've
been working very closely with them for a while, and
so they just purchased
like
this company,
Minecraft
but this company is spread out over many different countries. And there's a lot of games. Ion Fury was created by.
It started that particular company. So that company started out as a mod team, right? And that mod team ultimately ended up like coming up with basically this new system of looking at the way to do Minecraft. And unfortunately, the people at Minecraft weren't really paying attention to this. And, now it's kind of like, well, you snooze, you lose, because I really think that this is probably going to end up coming out to be one of the bigger companies of the next, like, little while. This is going to end up being really, really, really huge.
Right.
So, yeah, this is, like, gee, probably should have thought that through a little bit more, but whatever, it's all cool.
Yeah, but anyway, because the point, this is apparently looking like it could be a massive competitor for Minecraft. But the point is, this company, apparently, it was the people who are part of it started as a group of modders, and they're from all over the place. Like they're from all over the world. They don't have a centralized office, and Riot is now creating them a central office, but it's mostly going to be, PR and human resource, the administrative stuff, whereas the devs are still going to be working from wherever they are. So
and we hope that they don't end up losing focus of this.
Yeah.
So
anyway, all of that to just kind of say things are changing, and there may be, there may be some long-standing changes from this. Just, it's a bad, like Saib said, it's a bad situation, but there may be some good that comes from it. There may be some changes that we say, hey, this works. Let's just keep doing this. And it'll be interesting to look back in a few years and see, how that all flows out from what we're currently dealing with. Anyway, yeah, interesting article from Jason Schreier in the New York Times. By the way, it's Bloomberg that's his new employer. He works for Bloomberg's technology division.
Yeah, no, I remember now, because I laughed about that. I was like, oh, working for Bloomberg. Oh, that makes sense, all things considered.
We had some fun. So we had some fun with Kotaku this week. So Jason Schreier left Kotaku and was, we took issue with some of his quote-unquote reporting. But we also we've credited him when he's done some good work, and he has done some good behind-the-scenes work. And even in this New York Times article, like he interviewed Larian to talk about how they were dealing with the situation and how their company, was handling the work-at-home situation. Mm-hmm. So he's good when he does stuff like that, and he sticks to doing actual journalism. His work can be quite good, but we had some fun and produced a video this week reacting to news stories from Kotaku, and this was, and from a couple other sites, Polygon and Eurogamer. This was born out of me scrolling through Kotaku on Sunday night. Mm-hmm. I was bored. I don't even remember why, but it was like 1 a.m. It was a Monday morning, actually. So it was like 1 a.m, and I'm scrolling through Kotaku, unable to believe what I'm reading. And I messaged Saib, and I'm like, I cannot believe this. I want to make a video trashing these people, but I don't like, I don't like being the face of negativity. So we did a video of Vesper Tomlinson reacting to the news, and it's gone over pretty well. I appreciate all of you who slammed the like button on that. It got a very high like ratio, and we got one comment saying that should be a series. So if you agree, let us know. It could be something we do as a series, but glad that you enjoyed that stuff. Anyway, Kotaku has lost, one of their only people who was doing actual journalism there. So the website's in a sad state of affairs. But yeah, like some of the stuff that passes for news over there is just mind blowing. I can't believe how I'm just when I think I can't be surprised further, then they surprise me further. It's mind blowing. All right, so I think that covers it for today.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts, Si, before we head out for this Wednesday, 222nd episode of the Augmented Reality Podcast? Can't believe we've done so many of these. It's been a crazy ride.
So I am for the most part pretty I'm pretty happy with 76 right now. Again, it's not a great game, it's not a good game, it's okay. Right now it's just okay. The most of the bugs, and this is a funny story. So I don't know if you got this last night. I don't know if I explained it properly, but there was somebody who reviewed the latest version of 76 of the Wastelanders thing, and they showed off a whole bunch of bugs, and they trashed the game. Just trashed it. Like, here we go again. Oh, let's see if I can do this. And he showed a bug. It's like, oh, nope, can't do that. That's bugged. This is bugged. That's bugged. Oh, goodness sakes, guys. Look at all this garbage. This is garbage. Blah, 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 blah. Somebody found that the footage he was using was from like a little after launch. It was not Wastelanders. It was a bugged gameplay clip that wasn't even his. It was on somebody else's channel. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to call a spade a spade. And right now, yes, if you don't want to play 76 because of all the garbage that Bethesda put you through, totally understand. Totally get it. 100%. And don't blame you at all. But I'm not going to lie and say, hey, this is this way, this is that way, because I have a vendetta, right? And this guy clearly had a vendetta to try and trash the company because he was angry at them. I understand. You're angry with them. You don't like what they did. That's totally understandable. I get that. But that doesn't give you the right to lie to your community to say, oh yeah, this was this way and this was that way, and it's just all a bunch of garbage. It's just all a bunch of hot garbage, and I don't care. It's like you don't get to do that. Like, you don't get to lie, and you most certainly don't get to steal somebody else's footage and pass it off as your own. Like, good Lord, how did he think he could get away with this? I don't know. I have no idea. So it's been it's been really interesting.
Yeah.
So just kind of seeing that, and I mean, again, this probably needs to, this will probably end up having some repercussions for him in the future, and I hope so, because I can't stand Bethesda when they lie to us. So why would I use that as a weapon against them? It's like I don't like it when they do it to me. Why would I do it to them? Like
yeah,
why would
no
I
kidding.
do it to anybody? And so yeah, again, I understand though, for 100%, if you hate what they have done and the way that they lied to us in the past and all the issues, there's still a lot of issues, and all of the issues still prevalent. 100%, I get it. But right now the game is not bad. It's just okay. It's okay. It's got some interesting stuff. It's some interesting dynamics. Enough for me to give it an honest go. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I stand on that.
Yeah, so you were playing it with a couple of people this week.
Yeah.
One of the boys' rooms.
If you are interested in the getting out and giving the game a try, let me know. I'll be playing it for a little while here. I'm going to be doing Trials of Mana. We got some stuff coming up with that. But the game is at the point where it's actually kind of a good community game, and they are definitely giving away like credits. Like, did not spend a dime on the in-game currency. I had enough where I bought, like, people were getting upset about the robot, and at first, like, I had heard the stuff, and when I logged in, I was like expecting the robot to be like $20 or something like that. He collects like rare scrap for you. No, it was like 400, and I made that in about 2 hours. So I was like, okay, well, I'll buy it in the game. Like, obviously they have a bunch of stuff that is ridiculously overpriced. I would not encourage people to buy it. I after having played the game for a while now, I've got to say that whoever is buying those repair kits, they're part of the problem, and they're idiots, because the like, you don't need to be spending that. It's just not, it's like, it's a bad item. And this is what I was saying. Like, Bethesda, that is a bad thing for them to do, because that item is useless. It's pointless. It's like, unless you're not playing the game, you don't need those items. And they created sort of a problem with it, but they only created it for people who are whales who don't want to, like, I don't want to spend 5 minutes repairing my stuff. I just want it repaired right now. That's what's going on with that. And I was like, wow, this is really bad. So those are the people who are buying those things. They're the whales that are part of the problem. and they need to stop buying those things so the companies stop offering these things.
By the way,
So-
when you said it cost $400, not $400, 400,
No, it's 400 in-game
400
credits,
atoms, which
atoms,
is like
and
$4
like I
or
said,
something.
I made that. I didn't spend that money. I didn't spend cash on
You
it.
didn't spend cash. Yeah,
never have.
you earned the atoms in the game.
I earned the atoms by doing their weekly quests and their daily quests, and I made that much in about, now again, it's weekly, so that only comes up once a week. But yeah, I made that just by doing regular gameplay stuff. I didn't even look at the list. I just started to play, and I started to make atoms, and I've made about 1,200 atoms in a few days, just by doing, again, the weeklies, the dailies. And again, the weeklies, they only show up. There's some monthly ones I think I did, and again, those are only going to show up once a month, but and that's going to let you buy like whatever you want from the shop once every couple of once a week or something like that. You're going to get some item that you've been looking at and saving up for just by playing the game. If you're spending $800 on the game to unlock everything, I think you have a problem. I think, and it's bad that that is allowed to exist. I don't like that, and I wish that they would remove that, because it's just super unhealthy for people to be doing that. But at the same time, it's like, that's not needed. You don't need to do that. Somebody's like, oh, I want to buy all the Chinese stuff because there's a big Chinese sale, not because of the other thing that's going on. But there's this big Chinese sale, which again I found really weird why they put that out today. I was like, bad timing, much, but whatever. So I thought it was pretty hilarious. But yeah, sure enough, they came out with it, and I was like, okay, well, you do you. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's not. This game isn't designed for whales, but you can whale out on it if you want. But again, it's pointless to whale out on this stuff. It's like, you could never wear all 10 power armor frames, because that's just ridiculous. Why would you want 10 different power armor frames? It's like, at most, there's only 6 different sets, and 3 of those are upgrades to the other 3. Why on earth are you running around with 10 different sets of power armor? Like, it makes no sense. Like, because again, there's not 10 different sets of power armor, there's 10 different paint jobs for it. So if you want to whale out and be crazy, I mean, you can do that, but that's not what the game is designed for. I don't like that it's there, but it's also like I don't know. I'm hoping my point is getting across properly, because it's like a restaurant. Somebody goes to a restaurant and orders everything on the menu. It's like, who does that? Like, are you going to eat all that food? Because this is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, not just a little bit ridiculous. This is a lot ridiculous. Like, why are you eating everything on the menu? Well, because I got to have it all. Like, that's a mentality, and I don't think that's healthy. And I don't like that concept. So, I mean, I expect I'll get some comments on this for sure. Again, I don't like that they have set up the opportunity to whale. I don't think that's legitimate. But I also don't think that it's necessarily. It's not as bad as what people have been saying. People, the way that if I had been listening to what people have been saying, then a few months ago, the game would have been populated with nothing but whales. The game's not populated by nothing. The game largely buy to play it, and then you don't need to spend any more money on it. Well, my armor broke. Well, what armor are you wearing? Well, it was a half broken piece of armor that I picked up on the ground, and I didn't repair it. Do you have an armor repair perk? The low level one? No. Then why? Well, I don't want to get that because I want to maximize my build. So you want to maximize your build by not needing to have any of the perks or requirements to actually make your armor not deteriorate. You just want to be able to have it repaired immediately without needing to spend 5 minutes farming on it.
Right.
It's like, yeah, but the game is built around farming. So and again, I don't like that I do not think that Bethesda should have these things in the game. I think these repair kits are a bad purchase. They're not good, and they should not be in the game. And people should not be spending real world money on repair kits. That's just pure, I'm trying to get this point across clearly because
I think you've gotten it
across clearly.
Yeah, I think you've gotten it across clearly, but yeah. So you're saying it's okay now, like the game they've elevated it to being an okay game. So I guess, if you already own it,
it's an okay / good game. Yeah, if you own it, give it another shot. See if it's been improved for you. I want to hear what people have to say about this game because right now they are definitely on track to getting it out of the gutter. Like the fact that so many people on Steam are agreeing with this, it's kind of like, okay, cool. We can all agree that they did a bad job and that they should learn their lesson from this. And as we said last week, I think that this has really changed. If what I'm hearing is true, Starfield got delayed for over 2 years because they decided to take everything that they were going to be adding in the early DLC and the early expansions and all of the bug fixes that they would normally do over the first year of the game's release, and they decided to put all of that stuff into the release of the game.
Interesting. So, release a game that works properly? What a concept.
Yeah, so again, if this is the new normal for Bethesda, then this whole experience, while terrible and lots of problems, turns out that this may be the best thing that's ever happened to Bethesda. Because they finally learned that it's not okay to release broken games. It's not okay to let the community fix your game for you. That what you should do is you should actually go out of your way to make the game work.
And all it took was a game that people weren't allowed to mod.
And all it took was a game that people weren't allowed to mod to begin with. So again, if you're interested, give me a shout. We can definitely play around, mess around with it. I don't think there's enough here to make this I don't think this is a main you're like an MMO that you play 4 hours a day, 6 days a week. I don't think it's one of those. I think this is I think this is a mildly interesting game where you can play through it. The storyline with the new characters, the new NPCs, actually good. There's a lot of additional NPCs that you just meet in random places. There was some complaint that there wasn't in the alpha, and then I went in, and where a guy was complaining, one of these people reviewing the alpha, he was complaining that there wasn't any NPCs in this one area, and that he kind of wished that there was NPCs in that one area. And that was 2 weeks before the release of the beta, and boom, the release is out now. This is the one that we're playing on. I went over to that area and there was a dude there, and he actually had a pretty cool story, and I was like, huh, okay, well, either they listened or the guy complained prematurely, right? And now it's decent again. So,
or sometimes the NPCs wander. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, Funky Moin is saying they want us to have a Triple S League community multiplayer server when Cyberpunk 2077 multiplayer comes out.
Yes.
So if that's an option to have a private server, I mean, we'll definitely look at doing that. If there's any other games you want us to look into as far as that goes, I mean, there's a limit to what we can do as far as, right now we're just the two of us. Sadly, we have tried to we do have people that work with us, but as far as full-time kind of people that are fully in on the Triple S League, it's Cyb and I. We do have Jamie and Luna and other people who do work with and for us, but anyway, so that all that to say, there's a limit to what we can do, but we want to serve the community, all of you guys, as much as we possibly can. So let us know what you want, and if we can do it, if we can make it work, we will. But with that, I think we'll wrap up the podcast for today. So thank you so much, everybody. If you haven't already, please slam that like button before you leave. We would really appreciate that. It helps us out a lot. Leave comments below if you're listening after the fact. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. All of that. YouTube tracks all of that when it's assigning sort of a value to our content. So we really appreciate all of that you can do. And join the Discord server. There was great conversation in the chat today. You can keep the conversation going by joining the Discord server, talking to each other there. And also want to give an extra special thanks to our Patreon supporters and our channel members who are very important in a time like this. Our big dang heroes on Patreon, Josh, Robin, Timebean, and our 2 anonymous supporters there. And our channel members on YouTube, Mr. Pazdzernik, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Night City Punk, and Terror K. If you're listening after the fact on one of the audio-only platforms, we appreciate your interactions there as well. Don't forget you can join the live show on YouTube on Wednesdays and Saturdays, where you can interact with us and other listeners and be a part of the discussion. See the Discord server for exact times and schedules. The live show gets you the latest info sooner. The audio-only show, it's delayed depending on how busy I am. So you might be a little behind the times listening to that, but of course, if that's your preferred option, we appreciate your listens there as well. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash. On behalf of Obsidian, thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you again very soon.